Chris Savino with American Outdoor News, and today we're speaking to a rock legend who's carved a place in rock and roll history, selling over 40 million albums, and still continues to set attendance records today. He's a staunch supporter of our First and Second Amendment rights. He works tirelessly to preserve our outdoor heritage, and legions of his fans know him as the Motor City Madman, and many more just know him as Uncle Ted. Please welcome Mr. Ted Nugent. How you doing, Ted?
Hey, Chris, happy summertime 2021 in this crazy, stupid, bizarro, goofball year. I'm having the time of my life. My dogs are happy. My wife is happy. My band is happy. And I might squirt through this technology and put a stain on your soul, Chris, because I'm wrapping up, God help us all, the greatest recording session of my life in the insanity of 2021 with Jason Hartless on drums and Greg Smith on bass guitar. I got a team of insane, intense, gifted, work ethic, musical monsters, and we're recording the best songs of my life. So I'm feeling so good, it's stupid.
So when do we expect a new album?
Geez, you know, I'm hoping that the first song, a little love song called "Come and Take It." It's kind of a battle cry that epitomizes the American dream, if you know what I'm talking about.
That's a beautiful thing.
But anyhow, I'm hoping that the first song, "Come and Take It," which is, man, if you want your whitetails or your elk to start breeding early, just play my new music for them. And the stimuli factor is, I don't even know if God has authorized it yet, but we're hoping sometime in the next couple months, the first "Come and Take It" song will come out.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it. I've seen you several times, going back to when you played with Damn Yankees.
Are my musicians the greatest musicians in the world? Am I the luckiest backstrapping, bow hunting guitar player in the history of the world to have, Chris? I'm on with Chris, celebrating the great spirit of the wild outdoor lifestyle, but I bow hunted with Fred Bear, Chris. I went around the indie track with Parnelli Jones. I played bass guitar for Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry. Here it is, 2021. I married Mrs. Nugent, the Queen of the Forest. So what you've witnessed is that God has really blessed me. I think he rewarded me for staying clean and sober for 72 and a half years.
Absolutely.
But the musicians that you're talking about, if I wasn't in the Nugent band, I'd go see those guys, because I've had the greatest musicians in the history of the world all the way since 1958, which I just talked to John Brake, my singer from 1958, Chris.
Wow.
So yeah, what you've witnessed, the passion, the fire, the work ethic, I cannot overstate the work ethic of all these amazing musicians that I've been surrounded with, because my dad forced a work ethic out of me. That's called parenting, even though nowadays people's feelings would get hurt. But what you witnessed are guys that are so dedicated, so into the adventure of music, and inspired by those great black masters, the Motown Funk Brothers, and James Brown and Wilson Pickett and Chuck Berry and Howlin' Wolf and Bo Diddley and just all these, Little Richard, good Lord.
Wow.
So that spirit of defiance and uppity outrage that those artists created, they're still with the best musicians in the world. And I happen to be surrounded by the best musicians in the world.
Well, I've seen Bo Diddley, and what an amazing guitarist.
Come on. I mean, I don't know if you can hear this on this podcast, but I mean, it literally goes back to what Bo did. I mean, how do you look? I'm old. I'm 72 years old, but I still get goosebumps. So yeah, that authenticity, that musical uninhibitedness, out of body. Chris, it's like bow hunting, the mystical flight of the arrow, aim small, miss small marksmanship. We call the spirit of the wild, the outdoor lifestyle. It really is the pursuit of a samurai excellence. And that's alive and well in anybody that's successful and happy, whether you're a welder or a guitar player or a bow hunter or a teacher or a dog trainer, which, by the way, I'm all of those things. But that's what you've witnessed all my life, is these unbelievable monsters of music that have propelled my songs and my vision, even in 2021, even though the tour is canceled thanks to the Chinese communists in the White House. So that spirit of the music that Little Richard invented and turned us onto, it's so alive and well. And you've witnessed it every concert, every song, every year of my life. And I thank God every day.
Well, you've always given your fans what they're looking for in every forum, whether it's music, your hunting shows, your speaking engagements. They always get what they want.
Well, that's how I was raised. You know, the most controversial word in the world right now, I think, there's so many of them, security, that's controversial. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Ten Commandments, the Golden Rule, that's all controversial. But the most controversial thing, and we're paying for it with the manifestation of a cultural deprivation, is discipline. What you're celebrating with me here, and that I celebrate, not because of me or my music or my guitar playing, but the discipline of those people I've been surrounded with that my dad taught us. And if you met my sons and daughters, my brother, my sister, my poor lost brother John, we lost a couple years ago, that spirit of being the absolute best that you can be. My welder is the greatest welder in the world. My mechanic is the greatest mechanic in the world. I won't settle for anything less. And that certainly goes to the core of the musical monsters that I've been privileged to collaborate with.
I want to talk hunting for a minute. You mentioned Fred Bear earlier. What kind of impact did Fred Bear have on your life?
How about the fact that my dad, there it is right there.
Wow.
My dad, that's from not that long ago, but here's one from 1976. I didn't put these here for this podcast with you, Chris. I'm surrounded by this stuff everywhere in my life. I've got so many bows. How about this? Here's the bow that when I was born in 1948, Chris, this is the bow that my dad hunted with Fred Bear when he was just introducing or reintroducing that spirit of oneness with nature that is the bow hunting lifestyle. This is his bow from the 1940s, Chris. So that
I didn't even know they made bows back then.
Oh yeah, I've got so many old bows.
Your dad was friends with Fred Bear before he was Fred Bear.
Yeah, nobody really understood the impact this great man would have, but you asked me what it meant to me. Certainly my dad was already a bow hunter when I was born in 1948. And as I was growing up, every kid back then made bows and arrows out of reeds and staves and down by the Rouge River outside of Detroit. That's where I was raised, and there was Wildlife Paradise, Skunk Hollow. And so I was always mystified. I got a bow probably when I was 2 or 3, just like my grandkids and like my kids. And every kid was fascinated. Well, I think every human that is exposed to the archery, the oneness, the mystical flight of one's vision and focus, discipline. But then by the time I was 5 or 6, I mean, so young, we would go north every year through Grayling, Michigan. And this was pre-bear archery. There was a little shack, Chris, I might get emotional on you here. There was a little shack in Grayling. It's kind of an off yellow color cinder block shack that had a hand-carved bear archery over the door. I think the bear archery wood carving was actually made by Nels Grumley. Now, the oldest guys watching us right now know who Nels Grumley. He was Fred's original bowyer that created their longbows before they invented the marriage of glass and wood in the lamination process. But anyhow, I get ahead of myself because it's so exciting to me. But I would meet Fred when I was every year from 5, 6, 7, every year. By the time I was 8 or 9, I was so nuts about bows and arrows and my Daisy Red Ryder BB gun doing English Sparrow patrol in the garage. So I made my own slingshots, and I think every kid did back then. But by the time I realized, wait a minute, we're stopping at this little shack in Grayling every year on our way to the North Country. Never killed a deer, very rarely saw one. But when I met this Fred Berry, he was kind and funny and gentle, and he had all these bows and arrows on the walls. Back then, if I had 2 or 3 arrows, that would be considered an arsenal. But Fred had hundreds of arrows. And I eventually met George Nichols at Jackson Archery, who made all of Fred's arrows. So I'm in the vortex. I'm in the eye of this new bow hunting storm. And then I see Fred on the cover of True Magazine or on American Sportsman with Kurt Gowdy. And I'm going, wait a minute. This is that guy. This is the bow hunting guy. So then I became from just an appreciative of this kind gentleman with lots of bows and arrows to realizing that this was my Chuck Berry of archery. This is my Chuck Berry of the bow hunting lifestyle. We became friends, and I hunted with him right up until the October of 1987, the fall before he passed in April of '88. Wow. And I got to tell you, the kindness, the smarts, he was a funny guy. He was a cocky guy. He never showed that much in public. But around the Grouse Haven campfire on his annual hunt up there in Rose City, Michigan, boy, at 72, I'm remembering all these details because I can see it and feel it right now talking to you. And he was just such a kind man. And whenever you had a archery shortcoming or maybe a glitch or a failure in your form, he would tweak that. And so the reason that I am still, eating backstraps every year is probably because of the guidance that Fred Bear, who was the master of stealth, archery, form, the mystical flight of the arrow. I was a nutcase. Have you noticed this, Chris? My energy is dangerous, but I had to harness that uppityness because stealth and archery samurai, you can't be uppity. You have to have breathing. You have to be focused. It has to be out of body, subconscious Zen oneness with the wind. And I think Fred taught me that, which is why my bow hunting love accelerated every year to the point where in 2021, Chris, I really have to take a deep breath. I shoot my Matthews every day. I shoot my old Bear recurves every day. And my excitement explaining this to you, if I was that excitable when I shot my bow and arrow, I'd have to buy chicken because you couldn't shoot good if you're this excitable. You have to come down to earth to really slow down, have a natural subconscious form, and the world has to go away. When you get there, you know what I'm talking about, and all the bow hunters watching know what I'm talking about.
Spirituality, a reverence.
Yes, but that's quite a journey for a goofy guitar player that still plays raucous, outrageous rhythm and blues and rock and roll. But I've managed to attain that balance, which is why I can form sentences. And I got to tell you, I'm going to emphasize this because I've been clean and sober my entire life, or I wouldn't be able to do this.
That's rare that somebody can actually say that.
Well, how lucky, because if anybody should have been a rebel and started, abusing himself with the hippies and all the so-called peer pressure. But if I'm really, really good at one thing, it's being cocky. And if you are offering me something, anything, I'm going to be suspicious. I'm going to have critical thinking. I'm going to go, well, let's see, Jimmy offered me drugs and he's drooling. Why would I told Jimi Hendrix he was going to die. Bon Scott made fun of me because I wouldn't drink his Jack Daniels. And I said, Bon, you got this gift, you're going to die. Bon Scott, lead singer of AC/DC.
Yeah.
I told Keith Moon, I said, no, I don't want your beer and I don't want your dope. By the way, you're drooling and you're going to die. John Belushi kind of scoffed. It was like an outtake from Scarface. He had this pile of cocaine and it all over his face. He goes, come on, man, Motor City Madman, you come on. I went, oh. I said, damn it, John.
Sad.
What are you doing? It's gonna. I told all these guys it was gonna kill them, and it did. Now Keith Richards, notwithstanding, I told Keith Richards we went out on Manhattan in New York City back in 79, 78, 79, and this guy was a walking, depository of chemical warfare. He did so many drugs, but he was a stumbling, mumbling, a nice man. But you can't be a good man if you're stoned. Now, that'll piss some people off, but ask me if I give a damn. Yep. You can't be the best that you can be drunk or stoned. Now, Keith Richards hasn't died yet, and I'm glad he hasn't. I wish none of those other guys would have.
And outlive us all.
But clean and sober, come on, man. That's the only way to thank God for this gift, this precious gift of life, especially as a bow hunter. Because if you're drunk or stoned, you're not gonna have a meaningful bow hunt in the outdoors ever, because your radar's not working. So I'm lucky that I defied the substance abuse insanity all through my life, and I think it's partially because my dad disciplined me and threatened me with a beating. I never got one, but boy, I got close a few times. And so that discipline, combined with my appreciation of Fred Bear's guidance and the difficulty of being a good archer, that's tough, that's hard. That takes a lot of discipline. So that discipline, thank God Almighty, Chris, that I used that discipline to turn down the beatniks and the hippies with their substance abuse and their suicide. So here it is, 2021, and I would love to see what John Belushi and Jimi Hendrix and Bon Scott would be doing today, but they got high and they're all dead. I went hunting and I'm still Ted.
What does hunting mean to you?
Freedom, definitive aliveness. It's the manifestation of a physical and spiritual declaration of independence. Mm-hmm. I can sustain myself. I can defend myself. I can read my world close and afar. Situational awareness. I've been a cop. I've been a sheriff deputy since 1984. So I get to train with the Navy SEALs in the Delta Force, Chris.
That's amazing.
I get to train with the Green Berets and the Army Rangers. And when I qualify as a sheriff deputy, that archery discipline is I believe, the ultimate impetus for situational awareness and what they call tachypsychia, when you have to hit a perpetrator center mass and the whole world becomes a tractor beam. And I think when we're bow hunting, you better have the whole world as a tractor beam to that whitetails pump station, because it's so stimulating, it's so excitable that it takes all your control factor. But hunting to me is the activity, the conservation responsibility to balance herds, to utilize God's natural renewable resources while balancing the herds, to be stimulated by the challenge and the fun, getting the perfect natural protein to feed your family and your friends and charities, while learning what a smart step brings rewards and a clumsy step should bring punishment. In other words, if you conscientiously step in the forest, or more importantly, conscientiously don't step. The best way to hunt is don't go anywhere. Get in the heart of habitat and stop and stay there as long as possible. So a smart move in the outdoors can be rewarded with a songbird close by, or maybe a shot at a deer or an elk. A fumbling step, the punishment is that you don't see jack squat and you don't have a fulfilling experience. So that inescapable cause and effect of hunting accountability, conscientious decision-making, that plays the ultimate role in all choices in life, I believe. Parenting, private property rights, freedom fighting. You know what I mean? If you're a good hunter, and I find this, I share hundreds of campfires every year, Chris. I book all these hunts on our Sunrise Acres and our Spirit Wild Ranch, and I donate a lot of hunts to charities. And the people that share these campfires with me are just the best people in the world. They're honest, they're smart, they're funny, they're cocky, they're independent. They are critical thinkers. If you tell them to wear a mask, you have to convince them that it makes sense, or we won't wear a mask. That kind of stuff.
Well, the masses were out gathering toilet paper. We were out gathering venison. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it's how I've always gotten high for all my life, and I see it fortifying my children. I have wonderful sons and daughters, lots of grandkids. My wife, Shemaine, never hunted, never touched a bow or a gun till she met me, but I fixed that within hours. And now she understands real independence, real self-sufficiency, and it's epitomized by the hunting lifestyle, because it's not just about killing stuff. It's about knowing how the world works, so that if you really put your heart and soul into it, God will reward you with the gift of a broadside shot, or a mallard with his orange legs down and his wings set. Conscientious, intelligent lessons of cause and effect have its rewards. If you don't learn those lessons, there will be various punishments, and I think rightly so.
Now, you donate a lot of your time to various causes. You have Hunt of a Lifetime at your camp, the Ted Nugent Camp for Kids.
Yeah.
You have kids at the camp, and Hunt of a Lifetime, and a couple other organizations like that. Now, you just became the national spokesperson for Hunter Nation.
Well, life is a whirlwind, and I think we can both genuflect at the altar of the greatest philosopher of all times. That would be Dirty Harry. When Dirty Harry said, "A good man knows his limitations." Well, I'm a hyper flame-throwing vapor trail scorch master energy-wise, even as old as I am. I literally have to get up in the morning and stretch and tell myself to shut up and slow down. Now, when I'm making my music, I don't shut up and I don't slow down, because you want to use that tsunami of energy and velocity and intensity and defiance to make killer music. But all other aspects of my life I force myself, and I learned this as early as my 20s, that's a miracle, that you have to be cognizant of the world around you. And even though our heartbreaking, corrupt criminal government punks have engineered recidivism and welfare dependency, my band, my crew, my family, my hunting buddies, everybody in my life, my neighbors, everybody I know, we aspire to independence, rugged individualism, self-sufficiency. And when you do that, you can identify your fellow man who stumbles. We all do. I stumble. But like the man in the arena, you get yourself back up, you dust yourself off, you get back in the fight. Well, people who care, which is everybody I just described, we see kids who have a terminal illness. They didn't do anything wrong. Maybe, just maybe, society and their parents did with the chemical bombardment. Get the scented crap out of your homes. Get the poison and chemicals out of your kids' diet. Get the chemicals and poisons out of their shampoo and their soap and their air fresheners. Get the poison and the chemicals out of their fire retardant mattresses and pillows. Chris, that might be the most important thing I share with you today. Wow. Look at what you're bringing into your home. Can you pronounce the contents? If you can't pronounce it and you don't recognize it, don't buy it and don't subject your children to it. No, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health expert. I'm not a scientist. But come on. You plug in a chemical air freshener so that the chemicals heat up and you get to breathe the heated vapors of chemicals in your home? Chris,
Yeah.
everybody, get them out of your life because the kids are dying. And we take these 6, 7-year-old little boys and girls, some young kids of every imaginable age, including old guys, got this cancer, got that cancer. Well, look what's in your home. Look what's in your food. What are you doing? My point is that when you see this, people who care, which again is everybody I know, you want to help them. So when Make-A-Wish Foundation lost their soul and wouldn't honor a dying boy's last request to go hunting, the Hunt of a Lifetime, right out of Pennsylvania, created Hunt of a Lifetime. I can't remember everybody's name, but just good, caring people again, loving people. We filled the gap of this political correct lie that this beautiful, wholesome connection with God's creation, hunting, fishing, and trapping, a kid's dying and all he wants to do is participate in God's miraculous creation. You punk tell him no?
Yep.
Oh, Chris, no wonder the Democrats bail out arsonists. Anyhow, I see I'm getting all these licks in because it's all connected.
I've been on, I worked with a hunt. Well, we work with Hunt of a Lifetime as well, but
Great.
I actually guided a hunt for a similar organization. And I didn't really hunt myself, but it was the most gratifying hunt I've ever been on.
Yes, absolutely. People ask me, what's your favorite hunt? And I go, the hunt with a 6-year-old little boy who's dying of leukemia. And you make him laugh around the campfire.
Yep.
And he catches a couple fish, maybe gets to shoot a critter, maybe not. Some have, some haven't. And then a few months later, he's dead. And you hold back the tears around the campfire. My point being is that, like you, and again, like everybody I know, I'm your average guy that because I have this celebrity thing, I'm contacted every day for this kind of stuff. And my son Toby and I and my buddy Bob at Spirit Wild Ranch, we have an assembly line every day where I'm signing stuff, signing donations and signing these come and take it flags and hats and 8x10 photos and to go to raise funds for some World War II vet that they're not taken care of, or a little boy or a girl that's got a terminal illness. My point being is that who doesn't do that? I don't know anybody that doesn't do this. I just do it a lot because I have a big mouth, which is what the founding fathers wanted all of us to be, and wanted all of us to raise hell like I do. I'm not the extremist. The people who defy me and go against me, they're the evil extremists. I'm the good extremist. I have extreme good. And so the different charities that we're involved with, we just sent out an autographed guitar today with one of my Ted Nugent coins. You see all these coins behind me, for a military charity. And we do a bunch of events. I've been invited again by Delta Force.
Wow.
Celebrate September 11th with them in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So I'm not bragging, but I am proud that people who want someone in need to get help, they know who to call. They probably call a hunter. So I do represent a lot of charities, and we're involved with a lot of charities, too many. I'll tell you one right now that's a lifesaver, besides the Ted Nugent Camp for Kids, nonprofit 501c3, strictly volunteer, hunternation.org, a great organization. And another one I hope people will write down, fullcircleprogram.com, fullcircleprogram.com. A bunch of young Americans who have stumbled into addiction and substance abuse, where they saved their lives because of loving family and friends. And at fullcircleprogram.com, they're reaching out to fellow young Americans and help guide them out of the scourge of substance abuse, and they're saving lives. So that's one of many charities we work with. And Pope and Young does great work, SCI. So much, the Wild Turkey Federation, the Whitetails Unlimited, the Rough Grouse Society, I mean, Trout Unlimited, Quail Unlimited, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Boone and Crockett. A lot of people in the world never heard of these organizations because they just have no idea how to relate to the public, which is a real shame. But they all do great charity work with young people, military, law enforcement, and just fellow Americans who need help. And I think the hunting families of America are always the first and the most generous. You should see the donations from some of my really, really rich hunting buddies. Governor Kristi Noem, right there with Ron DeSantis, the two greatest governors in America, she held a conservation fundraiser in South Dakota. And I donated an autographed AR guitar and a one-day pheasant hunt with the great Governor Kristi Noem. One of my really, really loving fellow hunters in America paid $80,000 for a Nugent autographed guitar and a one-day hunt with Governor Noem and myself. So that's an example of how caring, how loving, how giving, how successful, how disciplined, how heroic the average hunting family is in this country, and I salute and love them all.
Now, back in the 80s, I saw Bad Company at Jones Beach, which was a disappointment because they had some pretender and not Paul Rogers singing. But the saving grace was they were touring with Damn Yankees.
Boy, oh boy, what a band. Well, that was Brian Howe. You know, Brian Howe's a great singer, and he sang on my Penetrator album before he replaced the great vocalist with Bad Company. But he just died here last year. Brian had a stroke.
Wow.
He was a good man. He was no Paul Rogers, I admit, but he was a very talented and a good and very giving man. He did a lot of youth charities and law enforcement charities. But Brian Howe, yes, he sang some of the Bad Company classics, which are monumental. They're pillars of rock and roll history.
Yep.
But I gotta tell you, Chris, nobody wants to follow my band. Especially when you got Tommy Shaw, Jack Blades, and Michael Cardelloni playing that roustabout, outrageous, grooving, almost James Brown, Little Richard, cranking rock and roll. So I love Bad Company, good friends of mine, but we kicked their ass every night.
I would have to say. And at the end of the show, they wheeled out a big wooden cutout of Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
You came out with your bow and you shot him.
How beautiful was the reaction from a rock and roll audience
The crowd
to
went
the
wild.
mystical flight of the arrow demonstration in such a scenario? If that's not the greatest archery demonstration in the history of the world, I don't know what is. I mean, I love guys that can shoot aspirins out of the air, and I love guys that can do all these trick shots, but until you've sent a broadhead, typically a flaming broadhead, into the chest of Saddam Hussein and other devils in a rock and roll concert, I'm sorry, none of those other archery demonstrations even come close, if I may say so myself.
Now, have you always been a political?
Well, yeah, I didn't know it, but because I've always celebrated and demanded freedom, which is why I turned down all the beatniks and the hippies with their life-destroying substance abuse. I didn't realize, let's put it this way, functionality-wise, I represented the American dream. I was a we the people. I didn't experiment in self-government because I never heard that term until I was in my mid-20s. I never heard of it. I'd never heard of Vietnam. I had no idea what communism was when I graduated from the anti-education system of America. I just knew that my music demanded focus, work ethic, and good choices to maximize the tightness of the band and the fire of the musical delivery. In 1970, by the way, always from the 1960s on, I was always approached by heroes of the military because they'd hear my interviews raving about aim small, miss small, right to keep and bear arms, which I was the only rocker that ever brought that up. And I didn't even let the anti-gunners get a word in edgewise. And if they did, I made them look like idiots, which is really easy. But all these military guys who took an oath to the Constitution that I didn't really know I was promoting. I knew I was promoting my right to carry a gun. I don't need a piece of paper for that. I don't need a piece of paper to say what I believe. I don't need a piece of paper to choose my religion. I don't need a piece of paper for jack squat.
Yep.
When I found out that carrying a gun around the country, around the world, I carried a gun everywhere, that it was illegal everywhere. And I go, how can somebody tell me I can't defend myself? Who is this guy? And then these military guys, especially the U.S. Marines, they explained to me what happened at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran in 1979. That the U.S. Marine warriors were put in charge of security. Now, I'm just a guitar player, but I know what security is. I know if a fireman is supposed to put out the fire, he better have some water. You don't send a fireman to a fire without water. Well, our criminal, corrupt, oath-violating U.S. government sent Marines on the steps of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran with M16s, no bullets, which is why they were taken hostage. Yep. Because they put them in charge of security and then didn't allow them to perform their training and their responsibility to secure our embassy. And I went, huh? What?
It's like having an attack dog and removing his teeth.
I said, that's what happened? And you guys obeyed the order to be in charge of security without bullets? And then you were taken hostage by a bunch of dopey, subhuman mongrels in Tehran, Iran? Really? So I started going, wow, where else does this corruption exist? And I studied Vietnam, and I went, holy God in heaven, what evil our government perpetrated. So I started getting into it, and because I was always surrounded, I'd go hunting. In fact, there was a U.S. Army guy. I don't think he was 20 years old. He was dying of leukemia, and he wanted to go hunting before he died with me. So I stopped everything. I took him hunting, and then he died. And the conversations he and I had, I couldn't believe that our government could be that dishonest, that corrupt, that oath violating. These military heroes died for their oath to the Constitution, and then the people that send them into dangerous conditions violate the very oath that they're giving their lives up to defend. I went, oh, this is horrible. So I started raising more hell. I got woke up. I found out what the Trail of Tears was. I found out what the ghost dance was. I found out what Manifest Destiny was. I found out what the Bataan Death March was. I found out what Auschwitz was. And I went, boy, can humans be jerks and evil and dishonest and corrupt or what? So I've been raising hell. Now we're living in 2021 where the criminality, the corruption, the dishonesty, the abuse of power by this government in the United States of America, it's heartbreaking. And so I'm raising more hell. Thank God for Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. Thank God for Candace Owens. And thank God for Colonel Allen West in Texas. Thank God for Jeff Landry, the Attorney General of Louisiana, Kristi Noem, South Dakota, Ron DeSantis, Florida. There's a small army of real constitutionalists out there, and I work with them daily, because if you believe a word from our government, you are an idiot.
Any plans to run for office?
Well, I think I'm already in the most important office in the history of the human experiment, and that is a We the People hellraiser. I would run for office, but you watch the Kavanaugh hearings?
Yep.
If Ted Nugent ran for office, it would make the Kavanaugh hearings look like a child's playground around the maypole. I would welcome the lies and the hate. I welcome it. because it's a softball to me. If all you have to do is watch any of my interviews and realize that nobody, anywhere, anytime can debate me, because I am a servant of truth, logic, and common sense. That being stated, my wife would not survive the hate and the viciousness. And I love my wife, Shemaine, so much that my priorities are God, family, country, freedom, Constitution, Bill of Rights, 10 Commandments, Golden Rule, law, and order. And Chris, I'm on the phone constantly with Republicans from all 50 states and trying to guide them through the quagmire of the cancel culture, political correctness, the evil from the media, from the critical race theory. It's racism. It's the definition of racism. Black Lives Matter is the definition of racism and terrorism.
They don't care about
it's unbelievable. So I'm performing my most important duties, and I go to bed every night with a smile on my face, having taken on the devil in our government, media, academia, and Hollywood, and stomping cockroaches to the best of my abilities. So at this time, I have no plans to run for an official office, but I think the most official office, the most important office in the history of the world, are American citizens calling their mayors, their senator, their congressman, and their governor every damn day and saying, we support President Trump, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We know that Antifa and Black Lives Matter are terrorist organizations. There's the footage of them burning down Portland and Seattle and Atlanta and New York. There's footage of them beating people up and smashing their heads with boards. And there's the evidence that the Democrat Party bails out arsonists and felons.
Well,
So
you got crime is up 86% at least, depending on the cities. And if you look at where the crime is happening, the people who are involved in these shootings and whatnot, 86% of them either have been in prison or have a record. They're either gang-related, drug-related, and the shootings are within those communities. Now you see my esteemed governor, Andrew Cuomo, your favorite. I've heard you speak about him. He's coming out and basically flip-flopping. He has declared it a disaster emergency.
it is.
So he can, COVID's over, so he needs a new emergency to dispatch another $138 million at his disposal and puts him back in the position of King Como. And he's basically flip-flopping on it, where he's on our side. The announcement
Not really, Chris, because Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio, Governor Murphy of New Jersey, certainly California, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Chicago, the
is
Democrat.
relabeling the disaster to fit his narrative.
Governor Cuomo and all the Democrats have engineered this hellstorm. It's their dream. Their dream, if you look at all the blue smudges, there's no blue states, there's only blue Democrat-run cities. They are all the epicenters of violent, dangerous crime, homelessness, feces, needles, and here's the clincher, Chris, and here's a term I want you to start using every day, because it's inexplicable. It is explicable. It's explainable. Engineered recidivism. All these monsters have been caught. They've been caught with smoking guns, and the mayor of Chicago, the attorneys, the judges, they keep letting out gangbangers and rapists and murderers and carjackers and child molesters. They keep letting them out, but they're going to arrest an off-duty cop for carrying a gun. It's literally Planet of the Cuckoo's Nest. The answer is so simple. It's the definition of insanity. When someone shoots at someone in a violent crime, put them in a cage and never let them out. You know what that would do? And this is the FBI Uniform Crime Report statistics. It's more than 86%. 96% of violent crime is perpetrated and committed by people that were already in a cage for the very crime, and parole boards, early release, plea bargaining, numbnut judges, and numbnut state's attorneys let the devils out to continue to rape and murder and molest and traffic in children, so that it's engineered recidivism. Here's what I want. I don't believe in repeat offenders. I believe in dead offenders. When the lady is about to be raped, be sure you have a pistol on you. Shoot the rapist. If some punk who's let out again to carjack you tries to carjack you, shoot the carjacker 6 times in the middle. People go, well, violence isn't the answer. Yes, it is. At Concord Bridge, violence was the answer to stop evil so that good can thrive. Here's my favorite battle cry. I come up with some great battle cries. Number 1, it's all engineered recidivism. Here's my story in life. You Pearl Harbor me, I Nagasaki you. Case closed.
That's great. Now, lastly, you work with the sheriff's department, the FBI, the police.
The good ones, the good ones.
Good ones. And you've gone on raids with them.
Yeah.
Now, when they go on a raid and they arrest somebody, has anybody ever said, hey, Ted Nugent, I'm being arrested by Ted Nugent?
Chris, I got some great stories. I was invited to participate in the Falcon raids in Texas. That's federal and local cops organized nationally by the great heroes of the U.S. Marshal Service. And I had great commandos, some good guys from the FBI. There still are some good guys in the FBI. There's some good guys in the DEA. There's some real warriors in the ATF, believe it or not, even though that complete bureaucracy is embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I had these real commandos at my side, and we're going door to door in Waco, Texas, starting around 10:30 at night and went all the way till about 10:30 in the morning. And we're going after murderers. We're going after rapists and people that have stabbed people, but they missed the artery, so they let them out to practice anatomical stabbing, I guess. And the adrenaline, you know, when there's a big buck coming or even a nice doe or maybe a pheasant cackles at your feet, there's an adrenaline that we all feel in the great outdoors. Chris, believe me when I tell you, and when I'm getting ready to go on stage and unleash my music, there's an adrenaline factor. Or when Shemaine gets out of the shower and I sneak a peek, there's an adrenaline factor that is the epitome of adrenaline. None of that holds a candle to when you're kicking down the door of a guy who's murdered people. And you've trained and you've got your finger on the trigger, the safety is off, and you actually are taking up the slack because this guy murders. And all your training and all your tachypsychia and all your situational awareness training and optimizing, it's literally out of body. So we're kicking down doors and arresting these maggots, and they were just devils. And it drains, man. It drains more than a 2-year rock and roll tour 6 nights a week.
Wow.
But at the end of the raids, we served a warrant on this shambles of a house on the outskirts of Waco. And there's these meth toothless dirt bags, it's like they went to the Michael Moore School of Anti-Hygiene, which he's a professor in, by the way. And they're just disheveled jerks. just, all snotty and drooly and stinky and sweaty and clammy and greasy hair, like they fix the rear axle on a Bronco with their head. And we're handcuffing them, and I've got a U.S. Marshal vest on, and I got my sheriff hat on. And we pull these guys out to the curb, and the sun's, starting to beat down in Texas, and these guys are all disoriented. Really pathetic people. They're just spitting in the face of God, going, I know you gave me the gift of life, but I'm going to abuse it again today, which is just inexcusable, man. So we got them cuffed on the curb, and you're just a human train wreck. And they're down there, and they're making funny noises and stinky. And the one guy looks up and he goes, and he elbows his buddy, and he goes, that's Ted F. and Nugent. Hey, man, are you Ted F. and Nugent? And my fellow Raiders, my fellow, law enforcement heroes, they got such a kick out of that. And I said, yeah. And I felt like giving one more boot to the ass, but you can't do that. But it was a funny moment where they were big fans. Stranglehold's my favorite song. And well, that's a damn shame. You should have listened to the lyrics, because it's about standing up for what you believe in. And if this is what you believe in, you're going in a cage, you dirtball. Wow. So, yeah, there have been some funny moments. But for the most part, those law enforcement activities are anything but funny. They're embarrassingly dangerous because they're engineered by a failed court system. Why are we going after a guy that molested a child? Who let him out?
Well, they're always talking about black people who have been murdered by police. What about last year? There were 368 officers killed in the line of duty. Yeah. Why haven't we talked about that? This year alone, there's 120 officers killed in the line of duty. Well, nobody talks about that.
The engineered recidivism and the soulless mongrels out there are waging war on cops, and they're waging war on, quite honestly, on white people. I mean, every day, every hour in Chicago, somebody's getting shot. You know who's getting shot? A black guy. You know who's shooting them? A black guy. And remember, I hate to reference color, but if you want to save lives, because all lives matter.
They certainly do.
I never reference color, but if there was a Dalmatian that had been biting children in the neighborhood, I'm probably going to mention that it's black and white spots. In other words, when you want to save people from evil, you have to give a good description of the evil perpetrator.
Yep.
And if we really want to save black lives in Chicago, because those are the ones that are getting slaughtered every day, you have to identify that it's black guys that the mayor and the prosecuting attorney keeps unleashing into these neighborhoods. So that our government says the number one threat in America is white supremacy is the recipe for Black Death, because it's not. You know how many white supremacists killed black people in Chicago this year? 0.
Here's a funny statistic. In 2020, the state with the most new first-time gun owners is Illinois.
Yep. And most of them are Democrats, I think.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Well, all I can say is that the most important thing we can do here, Chris, number one, thank you for having me on the outdoor news, the American outdoor news, because I think every day of my life is American outdoor news, because I promote conservation, hunting, fishing, trapping, resource stewardship, land management, the cleansing of air, soil, and water through wildlife habitat optimization. Duh. I mean, even the guitar player figured that out by the time I was 7. But the most important thing we can do, and I hope you do it on every show, and thank you for having me on here, because you represent the spirit of true conservation, resource stewardship, and ultimately environmentalism. If you want a clean environment, the air, soil, and water is only going to be as healthy as the wildlife habitat that produces it. So activism, my friends, please, if you're not pushing the things you believe in to your elected employees, the enemy of everything you believe in would like to thank you. Please, everybody, go to hunternation.org. Hunternation.org. There are still 8 states where you're not allowed to hunt on Sunday. Are you kidding me? There are so many anti-hunting, anti-science, anti-freedom hunting, fishing, and trapping regulations as to be just a disaster. Go to hunternation.org. We have to be a voice, a force for science-based conservation regulations. In New York, you got to use hounds and bait to hunt bears if you want to responsibly manage bears. What man can tell you you can't put corn or relocate apples so that you can accomplish what the DNR wants, what the highway department wants, what the insurance industry wants, what the agriculture industry wants, and what the conservation world wants? Kill deer. And if it means putting a tree stand closer to the apples, what man can tell you, I'm sorry, I'm going to fine you for that? Shut the you got to hunternation.org. If you want proper science-based wildlife management regulations, which are not the norm across the nation, hunternation.org. Please go to hunternation.org. And please, the New York Gun Safety Act, are you kidding me? The governor, the mayor, anybody that supports it has violated their constitutional oath.
Yep.
Keep means it's mine. You can't have it. Bear only means one thing. I got a couple on me right now, and they're loaded. And no man can tell me there's an area where I don't have a Second Amendment. And I don't need paperwork. I don't need paperwork, licenses, or permits for my First Amendment anywhere. And I sure as hell don't need paperwork for any of my God-given individual rights as guaranteed by the sacred documents of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Please tell your mayor, your senator, your congressman, and your governor that. Please tell them every day.
I appreciate your time, Ted. Thank you so much for coming on. And I look forward to seeing you at some of the shows this year.
Well, God bless you, and thank you, everybody, for supporting the Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild. We've been doing it now, Chris, for 30 years. Thank God for Shemaine Nugent, the Queen of the Forest, is why we've always been a top-rated show. But it's also because we don't produce a show. We just turn on the record button, and that's what we do. And we hunt, we fish, we trap, we shoot. We manage wildlife habitat for optimal health. That's why Spirit of the Wild is so successful. But thank you, everybody, for supporting it. Thank you for celebrating my killer music for all these years. And I hope everybody comes to the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire on my Facebook and on YouTube. I do it spontaneously 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, but every Monday night. And I just appreciate all the positive spirit and attitude and cockiness and all that wonderful positive support for the things that we all believe in: God, family, country, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, work ethic, law and order. So God bless real America, and God bless you and yours, Chris. I appreciate you doing what you do, especially in the embarrassing anti-American hell zone of New York. And if that offends anybody, then you got your head so far up your ass you can't see daylight, because New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, even Maine now, Illinois, even Michigan. Oh my God, Michigan.
Your state.
Michigan is a suburb of San Francisco. The politics are just toxic in Michigan, but I fight every day. Be sure everybody is a member of the National Rifle Association, Gun Owners of America, and your state firearms organization. If you're not a member of those organizations, Nancy Pelosi laughs in your face.
100%.
So God bless you, Chris, for carrying on and for carrying on this America Outdoor News. And man, it's really, really important.
Thank you again. You gonna be in New York this year?
You know, I'm allergic to travel. I'm in a swamp in Michigan right now. We live in Texas. We're Texas residents because we demand freedom.
Yeah.
I'm in Michigan typically during the tour. We hub out of here, my daughter's home in Connecticut, or my ranch in Texas, or Shemaine's condo in Florida. But right now I'm in Michigan. We're working on habitat. We're spraying for the midges to mitigate the episodic hemorrhagic disease possibilities. We got a great spray that we use to knock down those midge productions. I'm planting food plots. I've been out all morning just after the rain stopped. I got this great product called Big Tine. They make this stuff called buck brunch. And you don't have to till the ground, even though we put it in all the tillable grounds as well. But I just rake out clearings in my woods. I rake out clearings at the edge of my swamp, and I broadcast this Big Tine buck brunch. And I broadcast about 20 little plots. Some of them are only 20 feet by 20 feet. Some of them a little bigger. But I went back to look at them, and from a half mile through the woods, I could see an emerald chunk of ground. It's called Big Tine Buck Brunch. And it's so easy, even guitar players can do it. You just rake a clearing. And I know you're not allowed to bait in New York, which is so stupid. Who doesn't want where the deer will be? But if you rake out a clearing on the farm or in the woods, and you put this Big Tine buck brunch out with just a little bit of moisture, all of a sudden, bam, it comes up and the deer move right in on it. So that's the kind of stuff I do every day. Plus, I've been on the phone with the great Colonel Allen West, who's running for governor of New York, the great Detroit Police Chief James Craig, who's running for governor of Michigan. I'm trying to help get the Constitution back into the foundational policy making in this country. And I just pray to God that more and more hunting families get more and more involved. And if you love your freedom and your lifestyle and the great outdoors, you gotta fight. You gotta fight. You gotta fight to earn the afternoon in a free stand. So I hope everybody goes to hunternation.org, and I hope you have the greatest summer during the stupid times, and I hope you're going to have the greatest fishing and the greatest hunting season of your life. I promise you this, Chris, I'm gonna.
We'll do our best.
All right, man. Thanks for the American Outdoors News. And I hope to share a campfire with you someday, man.
Hope so. Hope so. Thanks again, Ted. I really appreciate it.
God bless America. God bless the U.S. military and their families, law enforcement, firefighters, and the first responders, and those who fight for them. We the people.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, live it up, man. Godspeed. Rock and roll like you mean it.
You got it.